Hello, I'm Rachel Weaver, and this is my natural disaster presentation for Geology 1408. Today we're talking about something powerful, unpredictable, and honestly, devastating. It's called a tsunami. You've probably heard the word before, maybe on the news after an earthquake or in a disaster movie. But a tsunami isn't just a giant wave. It's a force of nature that can wipe out entire communities in minutes. So before we get into the science of how and why tsunamis happen, I want to start with a real story, a moment in history that shows just how serious this is and how fast everything can change. Imagine waking up on a beautiful Boxing Day morning, December 26, 2004, on the stunning beaches of Thailand. The sun is shining, the ocean is calm, and it feels like another perfect day in paradise. That's exactly where 10-year-old Riley Kehoe found herself. She was on vacation with her family, enjoying the holidays by the sea. But what started out peaceful quickly spiraled into a nightmare. Far beneath the Indian Ocean, a massive earthquake, one of the strongest ever recorded, ruptured the seafloor. The energy released was equivalent to thousands of atomic bombs, and it set in motion a series of waves that would forever change the lives of millions.
About 10 a.m., my sisters and I are building sandcastles on the beach. My dad comes and he gets us. We start walking back to our room, and this island is small, like it's flat in the middle with two big cliffs on either side and palm trees everywhere. And we're walking back, and all of a sudden I hear all the animals went so silent. And this is like wildlife, like all of them go so quiet. Yeah. And then I hear shouts and screams, and I look back to the beach, and all the water has left. And has left so quickly that fish are flopping around everywhere, boats are now in the sand. And then I see it. In the horizon, there's this thin white line. It was a 50-foot tsunami coming at us at a rapid speed.
After seeing the ocean pull back, Riley and her family didn't hesitate. They turned and ran toward high ground, trying to outrun what they knew was coming. Many families were swept away, trapped in a violent rush of debris, cars, buildings, and water. Riley's story, and the stories of thousands of others from that day, are a sobering reminder of how powerful and unforgiving nature can be. A tsunami isn't just a giant wave. It's not caused by the tides like some people think. A tsunami happens when something suddenly moves a huge amount of ocean water, like an underwater earthquake, a volcano, or even a landslide. Or, in rare and worst-case scenarios, a meteorite impact. Think of it like this. If you drop a rock in a still pond, the water ripples out in all directions. A tsunami is just like that, but on a much, much bigger scale. These waves can travel across entire oceans and hit coastlines thousands of miles away. Tsunamis can happen in any ocean, but they happen the most in the Pacific Ocean. That's because the Pacific is surrounded by what scientists call the Ring of Fire, a huge zone full of volcanoes and earthquake activity. In this area, the ground under the ocean is constantly shifting. Sometimes one piece of the Earth's crust slides under another. This is called a subduction zone. And when that movement happens suddenly, it can create powerful earthquakes that can trigger a tsunami. So while we often hear about tsunamis in places like Japan or Indonesia, they can happen in other parts of the world too, like the Caribbean. Here's something wild. Tsunamis move across the ocean faster than a jet plane. That's over 500 miles per hour. Out in the deep ocean, a tsunami wave might only be a few feet tall, so ships often don't even notice it. But as the wave reaches shallow water near land, it starts to slow down and rise up. This is why it can suddenly become a towering wall of water at the coast. Depending on how close you are to where the tsunami starts, you might have a few hours or just a few minutes to react. That's why warning signs and early alerts are so important. In our story earlier, The 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami was one of the deadliest in history. The waves reached heights of 100 feet in some places. Within hours, more than 230,000 people died across 14 countries. Entire communities were swept away. It caused over $15 billion in damage. Most tsunamis begin with an earthquake deep under the ocean. But what causes those earthquakes in the first place? Let's break it down. The surface of the earth isn't one solid piece. It's broken into giant slabs called tectonic plates. These plates fit together like puzzle pieces, but they're always moving slowly. Sometimes, two of these plates move towards each other. This is called convergence, kind of like a slow-moving crash. When they meet, one plate can get forced under the other. That's called subduction. Imagine one plate sliding under the other like a ramp. As the plates push and press against each other, pressure builds up. They don't slide smoothly. They get stuck. But eventually, the pressure becomes too much, and the plates suddenly snap and shift. These sudden movements cause an earthquake. If the earthquake happens on the ocean floor and the crust lifts or drops, it pushes the water above it, creating a tsunami wave. When a tsunami is still out in the deep ocean, it doesn't look scary at all. The waves are long and low, sometimes only a few feet tall. Ships might not even notice them passing underneath. But as a tsunami gets closer to land, the ocean gets shallower. The bottom of the wave starts to drag along the ocean floor, and the front of the waves slow down. The back of the wave still moves fast, catching up. This is what makes the wave rise taller and taller. This process is called shoaling. One of the most important warning signs is that the ocean suddenly pulls back from the beach, exposing the seafloor. When the tsunami finally reaches the shore, it doesn't break like a normal beach wave. It moves like a giant, fast-moving flood that keeps pushing forward, smashing along everything in its way. The water doesn't stop at the beach. It can rush miles inward, tearing through homes, schools, and roads, anything in its path. It carries with it huge amounts of debris, trees, cars, pieces of buildings, power lines. All of it becomes dangerous, like a moving wall of destruction. Tsunamis also damage the environment. Salt water floods farmland, killing crops and making the soil unusable. Fish habitats and coral reefs can be destroyed. In some areas, clean water becomes unsafe for a long time. But the hardest part? The emotional toll. Survivors are left grieving loved ones, missing homes, and trying to recover from shock and trauma. Back to Riley's story. Her entire family survived that day, but many others did not. There was no warning system in the Indian Ocean. 7 hours after the earthquake, the tsunami reached the African coast and killed 289 people in Somalia. 7 hours! Enough time to save countless lives if a warning had been in place. Since the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami, the world has taken big steps to make sure that this kind of disaster doesn't catch us off guard again. In the U.S., we've built a system called DART, Deep Ocean Assessment and Reporting of Tsunamis. These are special devices that float in the ocean and detect pressure changes on the seafloor. If a tsunami starts, they send out a warning in seconds. We also have tsunami warning centers that watch the oceans day and night and send out alerts by phone, TV, and sirens. In places like Hawaii, Alaska, and the West Coast, communities are getting tsunami ready with emergency plans, signs, and practice drills. Some areas are building evacuation towers, which are strong buildings that people can climb if there is no time to reach higher ground. The goal is very simple: warn people early so that they can get to safety. Even with all of our technology, nature sometimes has a way of warning us. Here are 3 big signs that a tsunami might be coming. 1. You feel a strong earthquake, especially near the coast. 2. The ocean suddenly pulls back, way back, exposing the seafloor. You might see fish flopping or rocks you've never seen before. 3. You hear a loud roaring sound, like a train or jet plane coming from the water. If you see or feel any of these signs, don't wait. Don't check your phone. Don't go and look. Run to high ground immediately. Tsunamis are powerful, but being prepared is even more powerful. Now you know what causes them, how they travel, and how to stay safe. So here's what to remember. Know the warning signs. Share what you've learned. And if you ever feel or see something strange near the ocean, don't wait. Run for higher ground. Because knowing what to do can save your life and someone else's too. Thank you for watching.